Okay. All right, we'll start from the beginning. So if you go to the website, the first screen you're going to be prompted with is this login screen. So what you'll want to do is each dispatcher should have an email and a password. You're going to enter that email and password into this screen and then press the green connect button. And when you first log in, you're going to be dumped out here onto what we call the dashboard map. That is what this is called. And from the dashboard map, this screen serves two purposes. The first purpose is to let you see where all of your drivers currently are on the map. And they will show up on the map as either red pens or green pens. Now, the difference on that pen color is pretty simple. If the driver is available today to take a load, their pen will display in a green color. If their availability date is for another date that is not today, for example, perhaps they're available to take a load tomorrow, then that pen would show up as red. So you see here, if I click the Michael Mako pen here in LA, he's available to take a load today, and we can go and update and call that guy and get him on a good route. And the second purpose of the dashboard map is down here, what we call the live newsfeed. So as the users in your organization make updates to these dispatchers, for example, or to the drivers rather, if you change one guy from being in, say, San Francisco and move him to Phoenix, Arizona, within 15 seconds, you will see that happen down here in the live newsfeed, which is what this is down here. So I'll go ahead and show that to you. If we click on the driver here, which is Michael Mako, and we change his location city from Los Angeles here to, say, Denver, key that in and change the location state to Colorado. Then when we press save, we'll go ahead and get that driver edited successfully message, and within 15 seconds, you'll see it update down here like it just did for Denver, Colorado. So, okay, that's the dashboard map. Now, if you want to get a list of all the drivers that are in any of the states you see on the map, for example, if you had a bunch of pens here in Colorado and you wanted to know who was there, you can simply click that state, press the Generate Report button, and that'll give you a list of everybody that's in Colorado at that time. Additionally, if you want to be able to get directions for one of these drivers on the map, let's say they're lost and they need help getting to their next destination, you can click that driver pen on the map and hit the Get Directions button, key in the address where they're wanting to go, and generate directions for them directly within the application. All right, that is the dashboard map. Now, those are the features we have on there. Because this is using Google Maps, everything that Google has is also available to you, meaning you have the ability to see the satellite map if you want to use that. Street View is available, so again, this can be helpful in getting a driver unlost. And also a full screen view if you just want to go ahead and see the map, and you can do that like I just did. Okay, that's what we got for dashboard map. Does anybody have any questions on that module?
Pretty simple.
Okay. All right, moving on. So the first thing you're probably going to use the system for is mass entering your drivers. So what we're probably going to do is go enter some drivers into this map and go through what's involved with adding a new driver. So over here in the sidebar, you've got what we call the driver information module. Just going to click that, and you're presented with two options. You can either edit the drivers that are already in your system, or you can add a new one, and we're going to add a new one. So we're going to add one for John Doe. So we'll put in John Doe, and we'll give him a location city. We'll start him off in Seattle. And that's pretty much the extent of the required fields. All you have to know at the beginning is what the driver's name is and what city they're in, if I remember correctly. So we're just going to go ahead and hit add, and there we go. That guy has been added to the system. Now, again, within 15 seconds, you'll see that reflected down here in the newsfeed, and there it goes. You can see John Doe just showed up down here. And if we go to the dashboard map, again, we'll see that he's shown up there in Washington. Now, there's a whole bunch of fields in here that you have available to you. So you can keep track of what kind of trucks they're driving. And this is really going to kind of depend on what kind of trucks your organization is tracking. For example, maybe you have different refrigerated trucks, or you have non-refrigerated trucks. You'll have different codes for them, and you can customize what those are in the system. But we do recommend keeping track of that, so that if, for example, you're moving a load that's refrigerated, you would want to pair that with a driver that's driving a truck that's refrigerated. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so you would keep track of that over here in the truck type field, and we will talk about how to change what's in this menu here in just a second, because that is completely customizable. The other two features on the screen that more than likely your drivers will use pretty often, the first one is the rate information. So you can put in a rate down here, and again, how you set this is up to you. That's going to fall, I think, to you, Andre. But we'll just for now put in rate as like $100, and that could be per mile, that can be per route. Like I don't know how you guys have it set up, but I'm just going to key in 100 for now, and we'll save that for John Doe. The system now has stored that rate on that driver record, but if you change the rate again later, say we change it from 100 rather to 200, let me save that, and come back and look at that same driver again, the system is keeping track every time that rate field changes. So you can click this View Historical Rate Information button and see a list of every rate that driver has ever been offered at the date. And this can be helpful in case you don't want to offer a driver maybe more money than you gave him in the past, or less money, whatever system you're working from. This system is going to keep track of that for you, and you can always go and check that before you offer them a rate. We call that our just historical rate information, the system, which is unlocked for you guys. The next thing we're going to use on this screen is what we call the cover driver functionality. So if I am on the phone with the driver and I'm getting information from him or helping him, you don't want someone else from your organization calling that guy. And what we call that is covered. So if Andre's on the phone with somebody, he is currently covering that driver. You don't want someone else calling that driver. So this is very, very easy to handle. You're going to check this covered driver checkbox here on the edit driver screen and save the changes. And once again, within 15 seconds, that's going to show up down here in the news feed so that everybody in the system can see that that guy is currently being talked to and that they shouldn't call it. So we'll give it just a second here for it to update on that one. There it goes. You can see here that it tells you which driver is on the phone with him right now. So in this case, it's covered by Josh Lambert, and it lights it up with this green and red. So that tells the other people in your organization, don't call that guy. If they forget to uncheck the box, it's going to unlock automatically after 1 hour. So you have a 1 hour lock that you can put on a driver to tell other people not to call them. And of course, if the lock runs out, you can always just come back and recover him again if you need to. There's no limit on how many times you can cover a driver. So that's the covered driver screen. All right, are there any questions so far? All right, and we will keep moving. Sometimes you won't know the zip code, like if you're trying to keep track of the zip code that someone's in. We do include a lookup link here, and this will take you to the U.S. Postal Service's zip code lookup tool, where you can put in an address and get their zip code if you don't have it. So we have those links handy on the screen for you as well. Let's see, we talked about how to edit a driver. If you want to delete a driver, let's talk about that. Over in the sidebar, you would go to that driver information module. You could click the edit driver button, and next to each driver record, you have a delete button. So if we want to take this John Doe guy out, just press the delete button, and it will disappear from the system. So that is deleting a driver. Okay, next, let's take a look at how to search on this. So the search and report module is probably where you will spend most of your time in this system. And the reason I say that is because let's say you have 20 drivers that are all in LA, it's only going to show up on the map as one push pen. So more than likely, you will only be using that for like quick glances, and you will actually come here and manually search the drivers in the system from this search and report screen. So we'll start with just a real basic search, like look for all the drivers that have the word Mako in their name. Punch that in here. We'll come down here and do a search. There you go. We get all the drivers that have the name Mako in their name. So that's the quickest way to find somebody by name, but there are a number of other search fields here. Basically, any of the fields you have on the edit driver page are also available to you here. So you can search by phone number. If you have someone's phone number, but you don't have their name, you can search by that here. If you are tracking drivers by something like a contract number, like a number you guys create for each driver within your organization, you can search by that or by their company name. for example, the 53R, which is the refrigerated truck type, if you want to see all the refrigerated trucks that are in your organization, you can run that search as well, and it'll give you a list of them. Also, at any given time, we keep track of the last search that a dispatcher made. So if you searched for all the refrigerated trucks in your organization, and you simply want to run that exact same search again, maybe you think the information might have changed, maybe you ran that search, went to lunch, and then came back and want to see the same set of trucks again, there is a purple button down here on the screen that is Run Last Search, and that'll run whatever you searched before. So we had searched for all drivers with Mako in their name. We get that again. Okay. Now we only see one driver on this search and report screen right now, but if you have more than one result, the list can get kind of long. To help make that easier for you guys to manage, all of the columns on this screen you can sort the records by. So it'll, like if you hit the driver one, it would rearrange the records that have come back in alphabetical order or reverse alphabetical order. So you can click the header again and it'll search in either direction with the way it displays. You also get a list of how many results came back here, so you don't have to manually count those. It just displays down here. Okay, that's search and report. Does anybody have any questions on this module?
We're good.
Okay. All right, moving on. Let's go to the system settings screen. So, Andre, this is really going to be more targeted at you and the other managers here, but I'm going to cover it anyway. As you add staff to your organization, you can add new user accounts for them yourself at any time. But only you, because your account has the administrator access, the other one does not. So if you go to system settings, you will see available to you the add user accounts and edit user accounts screen. From here, you can add or edit users in the system as you need to. And it's just very simple. You know, you put in their name, their password, and you choose if they're administrators or users. And the basic difference being the administrators can actually like edit everything, right? You guys have the master key, whereas a standard user, it's just basically a dispatcher. That's just somebody who's going to be going in and manually tracking these trucks. So that's for you. And if you have any questions on that, obviously you can call us and we'll help you with it if you get stuck. All right, I also mentioned that you can customize the different truck types in your system that you're storing and searching on. Under system settings, there's a edit truck type section. Here's a list of all the ones we have already keyed in for you. These are some common truck types that other customers who use our system use. But you can come in here and add or delete these at your leisure. So if you have custom codes you use for your different truck types, you can add those here or delete the ones that we've put in here for you. Does that make sense? Take that as a yes. If you want to come back to that, just let me know and we'll come back to this screen. All right, we also have the concept of zones. So let's talk about zones for just a second. There are different organizations like to group their drivers sometimes. So perhaps you have drivers that only want to do routes in the Southeast or in the Southwest. You can group those states together into what we call a zone. That way you can then run searches on those zones to see, for example, all of the drivers that want to run routes in the Southwest. So let's take a look at some of the zones that are already in here and how to use them. So the current zones that we have in here right now are drivers that are in California, Nevada, and New Mexico. These zones are customizable, and basically it's just the state code separated by a comma. So you can change these zones or set these up to your liking, just whatever regions your organization uses, you can put those in here. But I will show you how this works. And to demonstrate, since this zone includes drivers in California and Nevada and New Mexico, we're going to move one of our drivers to one of those states, and then we'll take a look at how to search on it. So I'm going to click Michael down here in the newsfeed, and I'm going to move him back to California, and we'll move him to San Francisco. Now, when we go back to search and report, we can take advantage of the zone searching feature. So you see we have those zones show up in the locations, and they also show up in the destination. So you can search for everybody who's got a destination in one of those states in your zone, or also location. So we want to see everybody in this zone. We just click that zone, click the report button, and Michael comes up in our list of results because he's in California, and California is in the zone that we selected. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me think. We've covered the zones, we've covered the searching and the map and the driver information. Guys, I really don't think there's that much else to this. Does anybody have any any questions about any of the things we've discussed so far? Okay, Michael, is there anything you want me to go over again, or maybe get differently?
You had mentioned that it only does one push pin per state. Was that accurate, or does it do it per driver?
No, not per state. Not per state. And actually, there are the push pins on the map. What it is, let's say you have a bunch of drivers. We'll say 25 of them that are in Los Angeles. Well, there's going to be 25 push pins on the map, but they're all going to be on top of each other. So you won't really be able to see all 25 of them because they're all going to be on top of each other, right?
Unless they
there's two ways you can. Well, even if you zoom in, Los Angeles is still going to be just one thing, and so there's two ways I've seen this mitigated. The first way is you get hyper specific with the city they're in. So when you're on the phone with the driver, rather than getting a general location like Los Angeles, if they're in, say, Pasadena, you want to put Pasadena in there. So get real specific, and that'll make the map more useful for you. But the other thing is, don't discount the value of being able to search within the state on the map. So again, just because you got 25 guys in LA, you can always just click inside the state of California, hit that generate report, and you'll get all of them right there, just to double check your.
Take it easy, Mike. Take it easy.
I'm sorry?
What? I'm sorry, what happened? I guess something must have happened. I don't think it relates to us, Josh.
Okay. Okay, well, we at this point have covered all the highlights. I mean, again, we have designed this to be just stupid simple, as easy as possible. Obviously, we're available to help. I think we sent out a manual, and we're also working on some like step-by-step videos that'll be available later this week as well. But I think I've covered everything here that needs to be shown off at this point, unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about.
Are there any other questions or anything at this point? I think
I have a question.
now is the okay.
Yeah, my question is, so we're only able to add drivers that we already know of their information. Like we can't find a local listing of drivers that are available, let's say in California.
Yeah, so these are only drivers that are like already inside of your organization. So you obviously have to do like that initial data entry of everybody you know about, and as you add drivers, key them in here. Yeah, I mean we obviously don't know about drivers that haven't told us about them. So that would be something you'd have to enter.
But once you do enter all the drivers, you'll be able to see what their contact info is. You'll be able to see the rates and be able to search by those drivers. So as you add the drivers, whether they're your drivers or they're drivers that you represent, like as a brokerage, those all get inputted into the driver information. So you'll have one entry per person and click save. And then you'll have all their contact info. You'll have all that information to be able to call them, and you'll know if they're available or not available. Does that make sense?
Then actually, I just thought about something else we probably should cover, because this field was another one we had added based on one of our other clients. Just because a driver is in your system right now, it doesn't mean that you actually want your dispatchers calling them. Maybe you just want them stored in here so that you know about it, right? And maybe you can come back to that driver later. I'm actually glad this question came up. Let's talk about that real quick. So here I've got Michael Mako, and let's say you were tracking him before, but maybe now he's not answering his phone anymore. And there could be a myriad of reasons why, but let's just keep it simple. Michael doesn't answer his phone when you call this. So you want to go and edit that driver and choose on the active menu, change it to not answering, and then save that. So that then when you go and run searches, like let's say we want to go to the search and see everybody in California, you'll be able to see on the report before you even bother clicking that driver to call him. From the report, you can already see he's not answering. So you know not to waste time with that guy or to come back and deal with it later. Okay, then another state is that maybe you have talked to the driver and the driver doesn't want your services anymore or doesn't want to be called with you right now. You can go to that driver record and change it to suspend, which makes it very, very clear on the search. We'll save it and then go back and look at it. But that guy is suspended, so nobody should be calling him at all. So that's the three states the driver can be in. It's active, suspend, and not answering. Those are editable. They display in the report, and you can also search on them anytime you need to. So that actually, I'm really glad that came up, and that is something you'll want in your organization.
Do you guys have a list of the drivers that you guys can input into the system?
Yes.
Okay. So how many drivers do you think you have to input?
Right now, between 50 to 100.
Okay. Okay. So that you guys can put those into the system. What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Okay, so you can input those drivers into the system. Then you'll know, and you can mark them as Josh just said, whether they're active, inactive, suspended, or what have you. And then you'll be able to see those drivers and where they are and what the status is of them.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I personally, so or me, like I would never delete a driver out of the system because he may need that contact info later. So probably what I would do is get your dispatchers in the habit of simply marking them as suspend or not answering. Not answering is also, that's good to know that, right? I mean, just because they're not answering the phone doesn't mean they don't want your services anymore, right? That's a good delineator, and I would definitely leverage that for all it's worth.
Correct. Okay.
A lot of times drivers are just maybe out for the day or they're on vacation or what have you, and so then you put them on suspend or not available. That way, when you're trying to look for a driver in that state or in that county or in that city, you know you don't necessarily need to drive, to talk to them. But you can also add into the comments field, you can add like when they're going to be back and so forth so that you have comments about that status of that driver.
Yeah, there is a comment box. That's a great point, Michael. You can always tweet those in the comments, and I have seen that used very heavily as well. Like they said, hey, call us back in 3 days. Well, put that in the comments and teach your dispatchers to check that before they call them. So great point there.
Right on.
Andre, this is Michael. Did you have any questions or anything else that you want us to go over?
What's up, Andre?
Andre's at the doctor. I think he might be at the doctor.
No, you should be at the office. I don't know why he's not responding. Maybe he can't hear you, or maybe he's not in front of his desk right now or something.
Okay.
But,
all right, Josh, do you want to just quickly go over on the search and the report that you're on? Just maybe go over some of the other use cases for searching and so forth.
Okay.
Just because that's
sure.
That's going to be the screen that they're on the most.
Yeah, that's definitely the meat and potatoes of this. I would say probably the three big things on here is obviously searching based on that active status. You want to report if everybody's not answering their phone. That would be one. Another one would be you're going to call the guys today that have availability today, right? So at any time you can go to that availability, click this, put in the current date, run a report based on that, and get everybody who has a today availability. Another thing is that the language form is a free form that is not a drop-down menu, which is on purpose because you may only, your language needs are going to vary by organization. Perhaps you only want to do English or Spanish, or maybe it's English and Spanish, right? That's what that field is for. And again, I wouldn't use any codes or anything. I would just be put in like English or put in Spanish or English and Spanish. You can keep track of what language they're in without polluting the comments field over here. There's company, there's status, truck types. Talked about that one, and the zip code. Driver ID. So this is another field that you could use if you assign IDs. You sign these drivers up, you would store that there. You don't want to put it in the comments because driver ID actually displays prominently, I think, on the app and also on the report. So it just makes it really easy to see that ID quickly. I'm almost positive we show that on the map. Let me check that real quick. Don't remember for sure. No, I don't show that one, but those are the 5 we do show. The driver, location, destination, date, and just the truck type. That's what I was thinking. That's the only show on the map. And when they were last updated. So we also obviously keep the timestamp. So as people are doing things, that's noted up there as well.
Josh, could you, since someone did have a question about contacting the drivers, maybe you could just walk them through really quickly, identifying with the various colors where the driver is, and then how easy it is just to get the info for them to contact them.
Yeah, so if I'm looking at there's 3 different ways to get to a driver's record. So depending on how that dispatcher works, it'll kind of work with their workflow. You can get the driver's phone number on the map just by clicking the pen and hitting more information. That'll take you to that same edit driver display with their phone number on it. Another way to get to that driver is down here in the news feed. You can click on their name, and that will take you to the edit driver page where you can get that phone number and call them. And then lastly, over on that driver information module, you can go to edit drivers. That gives you a list of all the drivers in the system. You can edit and get to that same screen again. So 3 different ways you can get to the same destination. Just really depends on how that dispatcher kind of wants to work their lists.
Any questions? Okay, so now, Josh, let's do a few use cases. One is the people at Helio are in sales mode, and they're trying to identify a driver for a specific route, and let's say it's starting in California. So let's take them through what they would do. I guess they would run the report, right? And then from there, you know, what do they basically need to do to make sure they can identify a driver and book the driver? And then once they're booked, how do they track them through the process while they're booked? Because a lot of times people like to know, okay, if I'm booked from California to New York, where am I each day of, let's say, the 6 days or 7 days that it takes to get there?
Sure. So if you knew where they were on those different days of the 7 days, maybe you're calling them, you obviously would not want to change the desired destination. So if their desired destination was New York and they're currently in LA, and tomorrow they're in Phoenix, and the next day they're in Austin and then Oklahoma City or wherever, you would just update that location city. But let me think. If I were going through the process, now we're going to call a driver, the very first thing I would do is I would click that driver. Let's say this one up in San Francisco. I hit more information, and then I would immediately cover them so no one else called them. I would check that box and hit save. That way, now when I go back to edit that driver again, nobody else is going to be on top of me trying to edit the same guy. So go back to the dashboard map, click that pen up there in San Francisco. Now I'll hit more information, and I would call them at that point if you had a phone number stored, which right now we don't have a number on this driver. But that would be the next thing. If you did pick up the phone, call him, ask him where he's at, ask him where he wants to go, and key that information in here with the location, the desired destination. Okay. And then any other information he gave you, like, you know, hey, don't call me on Wednesdays, or I don't work on Sundays, you would obviously put that information in the comments. And that field can be resized as well. So if you get a really long comment, you can drag that out, you know, make the field super huge for, you know, making your editing easier. And you can see the UI just kind of reflows based on how big it is.
Okay. So I think the other
rate as well, you would store that.
Okay. So one other thing to add would be the sort of purpose of, you know, covering a driver, as Josh just showed, and for it to show up in red would be if you are the salesperson or the person of record for that driver or for that person who's calling. So you're obviously trying to get a quote for someone, and you're going to give someone a quote. Okay, you know, your customer on the actual transportation. So at that point, you'll see the rates, you'll have the history of the rates, and you want to lock that in so that sort of as you as that person has for that given time period of an hour, you're sort of static, let's say, of that for that sales call for that. So no one can go in and make changes to it. No one can touch it. You're sort of the go-to person for that specific sales call itself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions that relate to that? And so then, Josh, they would go to location city as they're calling throughout the day, because we have a number of people who call to say, okay, the drivers have checked in, or we're checking in with the drivers now, and let's say he's going from LA to New York, and he's now in Chicago. So then you'll go into location city and you'll type Chicago in there, and you'll choose Chicago, and then that'll be its current location, and then you'll see that reflected on the map as well.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, perfect. Questions, anyone? So we noticed that there's a number of drivers that need to be added. Who's going to be adding the drivers? Is everyone going to add drivers, or is someone going to spend some time in adding those?
There's going to be a selective, select couple people, maybe 2 or 3 different people.
Okay, great. Okay, so then that sounds good. So we have obviously recorded this presentation and the training, so we'll send that over to you. We're also going to send you an installation file that you can download and then install. And when you download it and run it, it will install the application, the web application. It'll install a link on your desktop and in the start menu and your start folder. It'll also have the documentation and training manual there for you, and the video. So as you hire people, they can watch the video, they can watch and read the documentation. They can also call us. We can help them and so forth. But if you give them that file, then they can just install it on their PC, and it basically installs the application wherever it needs to be. The other thing is, I know you guys are on a voice over IP system, so if you have what they call click to dial, where you can click the link, the phone number should highlight, and then you can click the phone number and then it'll dial.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so if you're having issues with that, or if you're not sure if you have click to dial, and if it's not working, let me know. We can find out depending on your provider.
Right. I hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
All right, so unless there's any other questions, we will get on the horn in sending this off to you guys so you can watch it again if you need to. But are you guys planning to use this starting today or tomorrow?
I think before the end of the week for sure.
Okay, because we're going to be keeping an eye on it for you guys to make sure that as you have people going in, to make sure that the load and the speed is okay for performance. And so we just like to make sure that people are using the application and that they're having no issues. So we'd like to know, if you're having any
next week
issues
starting Monday.
But as you have people logging in, if there's any issues, let us know. But we'll be able to proactively see what's going on because we'll be getting some reports.
Okay, very cool. Thank you.
Okay, perfect, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. You guys too.
All right, no problem.
Hey,
Bye.
hey, Josh.
Yes.
So what you do is when you close this meeting out, you can go ahead and convert it. It will allow you to convert it to with a media. You'll see what I'm talking about. So once you close it out, it'll ask you if you want to convert it, and then you can email it to us. You can just throw it into a Google Share drive and be fine.
Okay, so hold on. So I stopped sharing, and then
Just close out the app.
it says promote attendee or end meeting. Which one do I want to have?
Yeah, just close it out. Do you want to end the meeting? Yes.